Kristen, and you're listening to Podcast and Amplify, a podcast for women entrepreneurs who want to amplify their voice and brand through podcasting and grow a wildly successful business. I'm the executive producer and host of 2 shows and an entrepreneur, and I love helping women grow their visibility, mindset, and business to the next level. Each week, I share tips on how to launch and leverage your podcast, and I'm bringing on the very best business leaders to give you advice on how to build your business empire. Let's amplify your voice and business. Hey there, welcome back to the show. I'm Kristen, your host, and today I want to talk about how to make podcasting easy. So there are 3 ways that I think podcasting can just be such a joy and feel so easy and fun. And I wanted to share those with you on today's episode. So let's dive in. So the first way to really make podcasting feel easy is by aligning your message, owning your truth, and allowing your voice to shine. Doesn't that sound amazing? I mean, I just love saying those words because when all of those things are happening, that is when I know for me, I am in the flow. When I feel like I'm not even trying, it's not work, it's just flowing through me almost, and it feels super easy. And it feels like that because anytime we're in our truth and we know what that is, we're clear on that, and then we align our message with our truth, that is where we're going to feel the most ease, the most flow, and the least resistance. And our voice is actually going to just naturally shine because we are delivering the message that we were meant to deliver. And that's a very powerful place to be in. And it's a special place to be in when really you can speak your truth. You can create podcast episodes around the things that you know to be deeply aligned, and creating your episodes is just going to feel like fun. Kind of like this episode feels like for me right now. I had this idea for this podcast episode. It just came to me and I thought about, okay, what makes podcasting feel easy to me? And that was the number one way that podcasting felt easy for me, is because I know I'm speaking from my truth. I am completely aligned with how my podcast episodes are serving my community. I'm showing up in a way that I want to show up. I'm saying the things that I want to say that I know will impact people. So that is my number one way to make podcasting feel easy. Number 2 is not to be tied to the outcome. So not thinking about how many followers or listeners or who's judging my voice, what people will think, will people not listen to it? Will they think I sound ridiculous? Letting all of that go, that pressure, that worry, that is what's also going to help make podcasting really easy, because you are just in it. You're here with your microphone, you're speaking to your people, and you are confident, and that's all that matters. You're not tied to anything else. You're not worrying about anything else, and that's a really great place to be in, because then you can just create from a place of knowing that your episodes will resonate with the right people, and just let it go and be free. And people can hear that in your voice. They can hear your lack of worry, your lack of self-consciousness, and that's going to be what attracts people. Okay, number 3, embrace the evolution. So when we allow for change that is literally going to happen, that creates so much more of an enjoyable experience because we're not tying ourselves to one specific point and thinking, oh, I have to stay there and I don't have room to stretch and grow as I figure out this podcasting thing. We really need to allow for the evolution and then also embrace it and welcome it and lean into it, because that's what's going to happen naturally when you start a podcast, especially if you've never done anything like podcasting before. You are just going to get better and better and better. You're going to find your voice. You're going to make these small tweaks and adjustments so that the show feels more and more and more like you. And it's part of the process and it's fun. So if you lean into that, that's going to make things really easy, and give yourself the grace and the permission to share your voice where it is now, and know that that's all you can do is be where you're at now, and then be open to sharing your voice later as it changes, as it evolves. So I know my voice has definitely evolved from 2020 when I started my first podcast. It's evolved since I started this podcast in 2021. In, I think, August was when I launched this one. Even from the first season to this second season, I've made some small tweaks. I've made some slight modifications. And I know as a podcaster, my voice has gotten stronger. My point of view has gotten stronger, more specific. I feel more comfortable behind the microphone. My interviewing skills have definitely improved. I could hear in my first episodes how sort of high pitched my voice was because I was nervous. And listening back to my second season of interviews, my voice is so much calmer and lower. And so it's an evolution, and I'm growing and I'm here for the growth. And those things to me are exciting, to be able to listen to the difference as I'm going through this process. So those are just 3 things that I wanted to share with you to show you that podcasting can be really easy if you let it. This episode was definitely inspired by the fact that when I speak to people, I sense a lot of constriction and fear that like it's going to be hard. It will be hard in some ways because obviously if you're doing something you haven't done before, there's always some challenge. Challenge isn't a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. But it can be really easy and fun. And I wanted to share some ways that I found that have made podcasting easy for me. And I hope that helps you. And if you want to make the process of starting a podcast easy, I would love to help you do that. I have a few free resources, one of which is a free workshop on how to launch a binge-worthy podcast, which I will link in the show notes. And I also offer one-on-one intensive to help you create the foundation for your podcast, to really help you create that strong vision that is tied back to your why. That's where I tell all my clients to start, because that builds the solid foundation for your podcast. You know where you're going, and it makes it so much easier to get there. And so I help you create that vision during a one-on-one session. It's a fun, creative time, and I'd love to help you start your podcast if that's something that you've been thinking about doing. So you can check that out in the show notes or book a call with me to talk about your podcast. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate everyone who listens. If you know of anyone who wants to start a podcast and you think they would find value in this episode, please share it with them. And that's all I have for now. I will see you next week. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe so you don't miss a show. And rating and reviewing this podcast is the best way to help support us. Always remember, your voice and what you have to offer is needed in the world. Until next week, take care.